Hi, welcome to WMD, that's Woody's Modelling Diary, where we're having a little bit of an update on my 00 gauge last great project layout. Normally my glacial progress would see several months before another update, but like the loco tornado, I've been quite quick. So let's have a look at what's been going on by having a look at the underside of the baseboard first. See you in a minute. Okay, we managed to get the board out without damaging anything, which is always a plus point. Just having a look at the wiring here. If you watched the last video, you may notice a few things a little bit different. Let's start off with my first mistake, which was this cross member. This cross member used to sit just there, and in effect it went straight over or under the hole where the point motor actuator should have gone. So luckily I was able to move that because I'd screwed the baseboard together, so that didn't take too much effort. It does enable me obviously to put the point motor in. There are ways of mounting point motors above the baseboard, and I'll just go through that in a minute, but at the moment it's sorted itself out, so that was a good thing. Point motor wise, these are solenoid Pico solenoid point motors. They're mounted to a Pico plastic mount, and it does have a sort of a longer actuating pin on it to enable it to go through the baseboard and the underlay. Wiring wise, in effect they're 4 terminals. This is 3-core wire, which is brilliant from Gauge Master. It just means that wiring is so much more tidy and easier to do. You've got the ready coded wire. So the way I wire it is I use black as the common, red for straight ahead, and green for the diverting route. So always try and remember that red for straight ahead. That's the way I remember it. And as you'll see, the two sides, the red is on opposite terminals because this is the underside of the scissor crossing, and it will make sense when we have a look at the top of the board. For the track wiring, I've used a common 2 colours, brown and white. Obviously brown on one side of the rail, white on the other, and as we go up to the DCC bus connector, which I described in the last video from DMG Electrotech or Electech, you can see that it just makes it a lot easier to know which wires to go into what side. The output comes out and it goes down to this terminal block plug and socket. This is obviously the sockets on this side because they've got the pins sticking out. Or is that? Yeah. No, that's not the sockets, that's the plug. Sorry. This is the plug side. I'll remember my terminology properly in a minute. You can tell this isn't rehearsed. There is the other side, which in effect these plug into. Again, very good. Beats my old system of trying to use bits of metal strip or old nails or things to try and make the same thing a lot easier. Again, something I got from DMG Electech. So there we have it. So I think the next thing is probably just to have a look at how the points were mounted. So we'll have a look at that. These are the Pico servo point motors. Technology is very old, probably decades old now, but it does work. There are modern things these days with, as I said before, servo point motors and tortoise motors, which give you a slow motion. I just like these. They work for me. I know the technology. I can wire them up reasonably, and I know they do work. So that's what I use. Basically they operate by, in effect, having, if I can get this one to work, a coil either side with an actuating rod and a pin going through there, and what happens is, depending on which way you feed the electricity, it pulls the rod one way or the other, and this pin feeds through the tie rod of your point and then pulls the point one way or the other. If you've got a baseboard which is a bit thick, you're obviously going to need an extension to this particular pin to get it through the baseboard and up into the point. You can buy preformed parts for that, and Pico used to supply them as part of the point motor, but they don't anymore. I actually just got some brass rods suitable diameter and some steel rod, cut them up, made my own, and just super glued it together, and that's sufficient to hold it. The one thing I would say, and this is learned from Woody's mistakes, is watch where you put the super glue, because I managed to super glue this one together and that point is gummed up well and truly, and I can't free it, even having used a soldering iron to try and heat up and break the joint. So that one's a bit of a scrap one. Actually mounting the point motors, there are a number of ways of doing it. The original intention of Pico themselves, I think, was to actually mount it to the point itself, and that's why they put these extended sleepers in with these slits in. So these tags, in effect, just went into those slots. You bent them over, obviously the pin came through the hole, and you cut a suitably sized large hole in your baseboard, put it in, and there you go. I didn't particularly like that way because you ended up with a large hole in your baseboard. Didn't look right to me. So I've always gone for a slit to allow the extended point pin to come through, and I've used a couple of methods of mounting them. One of them were these aluminium plates, which I used to be able to get, haven't found a source of for a long time, and basically the tags went through, you bent them round, the pin came through, and then you use these holes to screw to the baseboard. Since I can't find those anymore, I've started using the Pico special PL9 mounting plate, and you get a pack of 5, and if I can find the right one, that's the actual mounting plate itself. Again, it just pushes through, you then bend the tags over and the activating pin comes through there, and then you just mount the board onto the board with 2 screws, which are also supplied, these nice little brass screws, and you just screw into your baseboard, having obviously determined the right position. So that's quite a good system, and I quite like this actually. It's a little bit more robust than the aluminium plate, so I have advanced a little. Clearing this out of the way, let's just talk about these, which again are one of those ideas which until you actually use them you think, yeah, it's not particularly good, but it is. Chocolate blocks, I think probably most people have used them in some form in a model railway. These have special plug and sockets, so in effect you just plug them together. You can obviously cut them to whatever number you want. You get I think it's 12, 2, 4, 6, yeah, you get 12 terminals on each row, so you could cut that down to 4 or 2 or whatever you wanted. But again, this was something I got from DMG. I think these are about £5.70. They're rated to, I think it's 6 amps. So for DCC, unless you're really putting some ampage through, that should be okay. But most DCC controllers in standard format, I don't think supply more than about 5 amps. I could be wrong, but that's as I know it. So anyway, that's the point motors and the connector. So we'll get the baseboard back into place, and we'll talk a little bit about what's gone on top, because there have been a few changes since last time. See you in a minute. Right, if you watched the last episode, and I think quite a few people have, and thank you to those people who have subscribed. It's always very nice when people subscribe, and it's just nice to know that people find what I'm doing interesting. Going back to the last video, this was sort of just plain bare wood. The ballasting has been finished. The sort of bare wood has been greenified, for want of a better word. And let's have a closer look at what else we've done. I've got some dummy point motors to fit. You'll notice we've got some cable trunking in just up there. We've also got some ducting, which is just plastic tube cut to size, glued in, painted orange and then ballasted around, and that with a little bit of weathering will tone down a bit so it won't show up as much. We've got a Wills lamp hut which is just undergoing construction at the moment, needs a few more parts adding and some paint work. But let's talk a little bit about the greenification. Started off with a base of just the ordinary old flock powders, some lurid greens, and then sort of covered that with some Woodland Scenic foliage and some woodland, no, it was actually Pico static grass, using a sort of autumn and winter mix, just to give that sort of varied look, and I'm quite pleased with that. Just talking about the ballasting, obviously people get a little bit worried about ballasting round points. Just a tip, and there is a video I've done on ballasting, and one of the things I did point out is before you lay your points and glue them in place or pin them in place, just spread a little bit of petroleum jelly on that tie bar there, and that should ensure that the glue doesn't stick to it, and hopefully your point motor doesn't gum up. Luckily, I've not had one come up yet or glue up, so all I can say is the system works for me. So that's one to bear in mind anyway. It's a useful little hint, that. The cable trunking is a Wills kit. It's does come in a sort of standard box like that, and there will be some relay boxes. I have constructed a couple of those before now. Nice little kits. A little bit expensive. These kits are probably just over £5. You don't get a lot, but they do save a lot of problems. And these are the Pico dummy point motors, and they sort of replicate the real life situation, and they fit in something like, if I could get it square, they'll fit in something like that. Wires come out and feed down into the ducting. Quite how far I will go on detailing, I don't know. With the amount of work I've got to do to the rest of this layout, which as you can see is in a real state. Yes, that the detailing is probably a lifelong job. Ballasting wise, I think I've said to you before, I've used this Woodland Scenic's medium ballast grey mix. Anybody who wants an idea of how far ballast goes, that's probably just about over half a bottle to do this 6-foot stretch of 4 tracks, a little bit of siding there. So if you had a 6x4 or maybe even an 8x4 layout with a modest set of sidings, one of those tubs would probably be enough for that. So hopefully that might give somebody an idea of just how much they need. It's certainly cheaper to buy this ballast, and indeed any of the Scenic materials in the Woodland Scenics range, by the tubful. So if you know you're going to use a tubful, then that's the way to go with it. So the other thing which I've obviously done is wire up the points, and we'll talk about that, and we'll put the baseboard, well, we've seen the base at the underside of the baseboard, so what I'll do is I'll go around the other side of the baseboard where I've got some temporary wiring and just show you that the points do actually work. So I've got to do a bit of crawling underneath now, so to avoid you having to see the embarrassment of me doing that, we'll come back in a minute. Right, just to prove that my wiring installation skills have sort of worked, let's just have a look at how these operate. As you can see, the diagonally opposed points operate together. So, amazingly, my spaghetti wiring has worked, and indeed even the point motor installation has worked. So I hope that's of interest anyway. I'm quite pleased with that. It's certainly worked as I envisaged. So I think let's do what we normally do, which is run a few trains, because that's what this layout is all about. So I'll get something running. Better bring this video to an end. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope there's something of use that you found in it. Just remember, this is a hobby. It's all about enjoying yourself and forgetting about reality in some ways. It's your own little world, and don't get too het up about what other people have to say. It's your model railway, do what you want with it. As you can see, I've had rather an eclectic set of rolling stock today, but that's me, and this layout was all about building something just to watch trains go round. It's been a bit of a mammoth task so far, and there's much more to do, but let's just finish off with this class 37, bringing a few wagons through the scissor crossing. I do love this scissor crossing. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. See you again. Bye.